And we're back with On the Record with Tiffany. And I just want to start off this segment talking with Deborah Jarmon, the Executive Director of SACAM. Deborah, can you tell us a little bit about SACAM and then talk to us about the economic impact of the pandemic and what we see today and the response to it?
Tiffany, SACAM is the San Antonio African American Community Archive and Museum. We are your primary source for African American history and research for the San Antonio region. Our website is rich with research papers and digital exhibits and virtual discussions, and we're just a call away. So if there's something on there if there is something that you feel is missing or we have not included yet, just give us a call. Our archive will be alive on the website in about 2 weeks, so we're excited about that. So that's what SACAM is. And you see LJ, who was our fearless leader, chairman of the board, down there cheering at us, and she set this organization up along with the founders and the hardworking board that started off just in operation mode, and all of the people that really believed that there was a place for African American history here in San Antonio really worked hard to make it happen. So thank you, LJ, and to all of the hard workers here at SACAM. So what I wanted to just piggyback on what LJ said at the onset about the economic impact of COVID-19. But what I want to remind everyone is that, yes, it looks bleak, but this is not the first time it has looked like this in this country, and especially for African Americans. So because we know our history, we know that there's hope. When you look at the Harlem Renaissance, right, it started in 1918, and it lasted through the 1930s. That is right smack dab at the beginning of the flu pandemic. You look at Black Wall Street. It was burned to the ground May 29th, I believe it was, of 1921, which means it had to have been there to make an impact, to be threatening, again, during the flu pandemic. What has made African Americans such a resilient people is that, one, we depend on each other to be successful, and that can't stop. We have so many resources that we can provide, just like LJ said at the beginning. As a business owner, she can provide opportunities for employment. She can provide resources for food and things like that. That is what we have historically done, and that is what we have to keep doing. COVID-19 has given us an opportunity to be more resourceful, and that is in our wheelhouse. When I look at, okay, people aren't necessarily eating in restaurants anymore or as much. But look at how many food trucks are up and running. And I'm seeing new African-American food trucks popping up all over the place. I was going down SM 78, and right at SM 78 and Wood Lake Parkway on Saturday, there was a pop-up like flea market with the barbecue food truck and everything right there on the corner. And it's drive-through. And I'm like, that's my people. So, and of course the food truck is licensed, and it has been there for a year. But now there are all these 10 by 10, cathedrals, and you can drive through and holler at them and say, hey, give me that t-shirt, I'm going to kiss it. Like, that is what we do. We can survive and survive excellently. Is it easy? No. But we have over 400 years of resilience, right?
Yeah.
So I just want to remind us that even though things may be bleak, we have hope because historically we have survived. Okay, I'm done preaching now.
No, but you're so right, because I was reading, like, I was doing the same thing, like looking at history, like what happened in the last pandemic? What happened in the last flu, the Spanish flu of the early 19th century, the early 20th century, and that's exactly what we saw is that there was um, the same racial uprising. There were race riots happening, uh, all while a pandemic was occurring, and we managed to make it through that, and we're going to make it through this, and even better than they did back then because we have real leadership now, and we have a footing and some degree of change that has occurred uh, from then to now.
Can you all hear me?
Yes, I can
Now,
hear you.
yes,
Okay, I just received a message that my internet is unstable, and I'm like, oh, and that's interesting because I'm at a place where it should be unstable. So, not to mention the multitude of Texas freedom colonies, and
Mm-hmm.
we could go on and on and on. We have um, survived tremendously. Again, I'm not at all making light of the situation. We have work to do,
Oh, we do.
but
Mm-hmm.
we can rise like cream is depending on each other. We've got to
Right.
do it.
That's right. One of my reasons for calling you guys up this weekend was like I was sitting there thinking one of one of my favorite parts of history is the Black intelligentsia. That we had this incredible network of people who were thoughtful, Black intellectuals who really did help shape what we were going to do as a people and fought valiantly to execute around the goals and objectives of the Black intelligentsia. And I thought, I was talking to Dr. Dukes. And I was telling you about that, about that Dr. Williams. I was talking to him, and he was like, "I missed that, and we need to bring that back." And I said, "Okay," because he's always like putting me between him and a couple of my other board members that I really adore. They always have some little mission that they're like, "Hey, we should do this." And then I'm like, "Oh, okay, well," and I go out and try to figure out how we're going to do it. And I thought about, the first place to start is with Black women and with us, because
yeah.
as we stated earlier, who came in and basically helped this election on both sides of the fence.
Mhm.
We saw Black women come in
Yeah.
and vote thoughtfully about what would be best for our communities. You see that in how we conduct business. You see that in how we comport ourselves. Often I'm the only African American woman in the room, and I know you all experience the same thing. We shouldn't even have to say that in today's in this day and age. You would think that there would be a lot more of us at the table, but there aren't sometimes. And so when we walk in, we're comporting ourselves for every Black woman that will walk in that room after us, and every Black male that's going to walk in the room after us. So, I thought about that and thought, let me pick some ladies that I think are amazing, and we will and we can talk about the reality for our community in an accurate way, and not sometimes I hear people talking about us as if there's nothing redeeming in our community, like we don't even have a culture, when every culture in the world is influenced by our culture.
Absolutely. I mean, you just made me think about Ida B. Wells, Barnett, right? Ida B. Wells with the pen was just a monster, right? She was just extraordinary. And you look at how she would dig into people. You know, she would dig, white folks, if you're listening, go and read Ida B. Wells Barnett. She would dig in, you know, and she just kept it 100. She was like, listen, you know, y'all want everything that we have. We have little to nothing, but you still want what we have, right? You still look at us and, you know, look upon us with envy. It was just extraordinary what she had to say. But going to what you were talking about with the Black intelligentsia, the first book that I wrote as a kid was about the talented 10th. And how pointed a conversation is that till this day, right? Because you think about the Black intelligentsia, that's exactly where we are. We have always
Luana, tell our audience what the talented 10th is, so they know. Oh. I know they don't.
So if they've ever read, if you have not read William Edward Burgott Du Bois, you must read him, all of his books, from The Souls of Black Folks. Read all of his books. They're all just masterful. He, in the United States, when you think about American history, we actually recall him and celebrate him as the first American sociologist of our nation, of our great nation. Regardless of color and regardless really of, you know, scholarship, we regard him as our first sociologist. He was a brilliant thinker. And so the talented 10th was basically I would call it a theme more than a movement, more of a theme regarding just how it is in nature. When people are led, they are usually led by a minority. The majority does not, you know, end up. You don't see democracies, true democracies anywhere in the world. They're, you know, very hard to come by. Why? Because most people have other things that are keeping them from participating civically, right? So that means that you end up having this sort of delegate or trustee or representative, you know, government or governing structure. And that is how you see this concept, this theme of the talented 10th emerge out of understanding that the talented 10th then, they're talented because they are the ones who have to lead. They have to take on the responsibility of pushing the collective towards progress or towards, you know, their own personal welfare. And, you know, you look at the book at the time when this was espoused, the Black intelligentsia was really divided between this sort of Booker T. Washington way of looking at, you know, how we should move forward now that we've gotten freedom, you know, versus this more Du Boisian, you know, go and study the soft sciences, you know, go and get your, you know, travel abroad to Paris,
developing
and really get the culture. Right. so that conversation is still pointed till this day, because I think, let's be real, you look at the times we live in, a lot of our kids, you know, I ain't even going to call some people's names out, but, you know, folks look at me like, you know, you one of them snobby, snooty, whatever, and we over here in the hood, and, you know, we don't live the same life. And I'm like, look, chick, I come from that too. Okay, exactly. Don't judge me. You don't know me.
And
okay, we just have to get polished because we're older.
The thing about that is that there is space for both of us, and who do they think is walking into those rooms and talking about policy and getting policy changed? It's not you, girl. It's us. We're the ones who have to walk into those rooms and get policy changed and want to change policy, because we came from the neighborhood 7 streets over from the projects, which is where I came from. So, you know, yes, that road led me to boarding school in Europe and a lot of other things. But who I became, who I am fundamentally, was developed right there at 1420 Fairway Street, you know, in my neighborhood. And I will never forget who I am. I won't forget my cool cups being sold out the window. I don't forget my boudin balls and and all the other fun things from my neighborhood and from the little community fun places that we had. We played t-ball and all that other stuff, that made me a team player, and that made me resourceful about finding, selling candy and everything else so we could raise the money for our uniforms, and just all of the stuff that makes you who you are. So to act like this end product has always been is not an accurate depiction. And I really do feel that, now this, you got me on my soapbox. I do feel that that division that has been sown between the poor, middle class, upper middle class, etc., within our community, it didn't come from our community, and we need to stamp it out. We need to stamp it out because it shouldn't be there. There should be no division between us.
Can I make a comment, if you don't mind? I want to just go back really quickly when you were talking about the assault on Black women. And I want to say that it really stems from, we are the cradle, the birthplace. This is where the Black race comes from. It's from our womb. And so I don't think the assault is, it's by design. When you look at the mortality rates, I think we talked about this last week, and I know Dr. Williams can weigh in. But if you look at the African American pregnant woman mortality rate,
yeah,
it's
horrible.
Unbelievable.
Yep.
When you look at how, when we as African American women go to the doctor, and how much the doctor believes what we're saying. Are we?
Right.
We're supposed to be able to withstand more pain.
Yeah.
And that is junk science, that we can withstand more pain. That is junk science that has been
Totally.
that has been debunked multiple times in multiple places. Harvard University debunked it. A group of scientists, a group of students debunked that and just said this is junk, that African Americans can withstand more pain and that their EGFR should be adjusted because there's extra muscle within this group of people. I mean, just nonsensical, notions that have nothing to do with science, but then have everything to do with some of the most atrocious crimes against humanity that have actually happened. When you look back at some of the people who put these ideas into play, it's a disgusting little adventure into history. But anyway, go ahead, Deborah. Sorry, I digress. That drives me crazy. Wait, we can't hear you.
I see. I wanted to bring Dr. Williams into that, and what she may have to share about African American women and our mortality rate. And we don't really know what the nature of the assault is, but that is what I surmise.
Yeah, so absolutely, Deborah. It really, when you look at the data, we really should be ashamed of ourselves. For Black females to give birth, it is a deadly undertaking, and the disparity in terms of white people versus Black people, the disparity is so incredibly huge that there's actually I'm part of a group called Mocha Medicine. We're literally looking for other Black physicians to take care of these patients just because it's such a deadly undertaking. And
Mocha Medicine.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a Facebook group, but the point that I'm making is that it's sad that a network has actually been created to say, you know, I have this Black friend in this city. Can somebody take care of her? Just because the numbers, it's scary. And the irony of that, Deborah, is I didn't even know when I gave birth, I had no idea that these numbers were that bad. And I can't even look back on my own experience. You know, I had a postpartum hemorrhage, I had preeclampsia, and I was just I left at 22 hours, which was part of my desire. But point being is that even medically, my experience, even as a physician, I think was not what it should have been. And so, and I feel so bad. I've read articles on it. I wish I could quote, but I just remember thinking the disparity, it's a sad disparity. That's all I have to say about that, Deborah. It's a sad disparity, and it's real. And I also, too, wanted to comment on what Tiffany said earlier, is that the irony of how we're treated in American society, and this might be a little bit of a digression, but the irony of how we're treated in American society is that in a lot of ways we're often the savior, right? Like the election is a perfect example of that. Mobilizing, you know, like I became a deputy registrar so that I could register people to vote because I knew that this election was so important. 91% of Black females voted for Biden. And I think really what's kind of, you know, what I think we're called on now to do is to say, okay, hey, we were in there, we supported you. Now we really need to make sure that politically we're getting our needs met, our community needs met, and really taking people to task, because our leaders are there to serve the people, right? And we spoke out and put our voice out there. And so yeah, like I said, maybe a point of digression, but I really was thinking about that we really need to kind of hold people to really kind of represent the people that voted for them.
That's right. Because, you know, when you look at when we're sitting here talking about socioeconomic impact, we've watched our neighborhoods and inner cities across the United States deteriorate year after year after year, and across various administrations, Democratic, Republican. And for us, it is time to hold feet to the fire and say, hey, we have expectations. You know, you want to come in to corporations. I think we should say, and it's something that I've thought through quite a bit. If you're coming in and you're saying that you want to do this set of clinical trials because you want to help a genetic allele or something that is we're genetically predispositioned for. Okay, you come in and you tell us this, then economically speaking, if you're coming into this community and utilizing us to figure out how to essentially make a therapeutic or something of that nature to help us and sell to us, then there should be a direct tie to contributing back to that community. Right. There should be a socioeconomic dividend that is paid to that community, instead of we come in, we learn we learn what's wrong, and then come back and sell you millions of dollars worth of therapeutics, and you never see, and the community itself does not see a benefit from having contributed their own health and well-being to helping others. I think there should be a tie to that. I don't know how that tie is made, but it should be. The very corporations, et cetera, that are coming in and benefiting from our community should also contribute to it.
I agree.
I found a statistic. I just wanted to share this. For women over the age of 30, for Black and American Indian women, the rate was 4 to 5 times higher. The postpartum postpartum mortality rate was 4 to 5 times higher. For Black women with at least a college degree, it was 5 times higher than their white counterparts. So basically, 4 to 5 times more likely to die. Which is just, to me, that's mind-boggling. Like, nobody can argue those types of statistics. So kind of sad. But yeah, sorry guys, I found that, I just wanted to share it.
Like what, you know, those are things that are incredibly important. and Black women should know that. When I remember when my sister-in-law was pregnant with my nephew, doctor told her that she was a geriatric pregnancy, and that she, there were all kinds of standards that she needed to keep. She didn't know that. She was like 33, 34. Yeah. And she had no idea that was considered an old pregnancy at 33 or 34. You don't think that, right? But there's so much like with us, with Black women, that, I mean, that is what they said, Luana. Nobody can hear you. You're on mute.
I was like, well, dang, I guess I'm going to have to be geriatric because...
That's what I'm just letting you know, girl. That is what they're going to tell you.
I saw that on my chart. I was like, what? Excuse you. I'm only 30. Like, it's 32. I guess it's when you give birth. Like, if it's greater than 35, I guess it must be 34. It's very depressing, guys, but facts. You're considered geriatric. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. It is not a blessing to hear that, but it's the truth. But when we're looking at this pandemic and how we're going to walk out of this, because we see the numbers going up. Dr. Williams, when you look at these numbers as they're rising, my last guest in the segments before this, he's an epidemiologist, and he was saying this is going to get worse before it gets better. He expects it to get a lot better once we have a singular vision and word coming from the U.S. government and a plan.
Absolutely.
But yeah. What do you see?
Yeah, I want to co-sign that. I think that one of the biggest problems has been from the top. People in position of power, people that are visible, they have to actually give support to the reality, right? So, and not to call anybody out, but if you're sick and you're not wearing your mask, or if you're making fun of people not wearing a mask, or rather wearing a mask, then it's problematic. So, there's a Russian saying that the fish stinks from its head. And so really the person on top, the person in charge, has to be the person leading and giving a unified kind of message. And unfortunately, I think really too, guys, that the harder thing with that is that the damage has already been done. You look in countries where this thing is better controlled, and it's because there was a unified message from the beginning that if you take these measures, then things will be controlled. And that was never, in my opinion, that was never anything that was pushed out. And so I think that's the first thing that I'm looking for and hoping will come, is that singular message. And Tiffany, I'm sorry, that was your question, right? Like, what do I see in the future, or what do I?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the first thing. I think contact tracing is another thing that could get better. In America, it's always hard though, because everybody's afraid of Big Brother, right? So contact tracing is going to be another big thing that I think could go a long way in terms of addressing the pandemic.
What do you think, Deborah, when you're looking at how this is going to play out in history? Like when you look at how our response has been, and the fact that this is affecting Black and brown people in such disproportionate numbers, what does that say about it historically?
What I hope to gain from this, from a historic perspective, when you go back and you look at the flu pandemic, you don't see really how it affected our communities. There's not much written history on that. So one of the things that we're doing at TakeHim, and I hope we're doing across the globe, is really documenting these are the effects of this pandemic. This is how it affected my family. This is how it affected my community. And again, I have to go back to, and this is how we overcame. Even with the death of so many people, so many loved ones, there is still that resilience and we will overcome, but we need to talk about it and record it.
And you're exactly right. So are you all doing testimonials? Are y'all, oh, that's wonderful. So you're archiving all of it?
Yeah.
That is amazing. Okay, so
TakeHim.org, contact us so you can get your COVID-19 story as a part of history. If you don't tell your story, you're leaving it up to someone else to tell it or for it to be completely left out of history.
wow, I love that. I love that. I'll be contacting you to tell our family story. So Luana, and I'm going to end with you, Luana. You tell us what you see economically, because there's all this talk about why we shouldn't take more drastic measures to save our population healthcare wise. And every time we hear that discussion, it is always centered around economics. We need to keep businesses open. We need to keep money flowing. You know, my comment is, who can spend money if they're all if a portion of your population is deceased? Like, who are they?
Hello.
You know, like you have to value human life. I mean, who's going to be in the economy if there's who's left in the economy if you've got a significant percentage of your workforce ill or suffering long-term effects from an illness?
That's technology, right? So you look at the markets, Bitcoin, for example, today, another high. We're getting close to the 20-something thousand dollar threshold that we had before. And I did get some units. I had to purchase some Bitcoin units. Just had to let everybody know that had to happen. You can do it on PayPal. Or eToro. But, you know, when you look at, real quick, because I know we don't have a lot of time, but when you look at where we're going economically, what this means is that we have to force ourselves into emerging technologies. It's very simple. We have to find ways to fill the gaps in terms of delivering in the marketplace. So everything is going to be about emerging technologies. Everybody's investing heavily in tech. That's it. That's the path forward.